U.S. elections 2020. President Trump and his challenger Biden. Who is ahead? If the U.S. elections took place right now, who would win? Former Vice President Joe Biden, representing the Democrats, or President Donald Trump, representing the Republicans? National surveys are an effective means of measuring a candidate's popularity across the United States. But they may not help predict an accurate final result. As in the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton, though ahead of Donald Trump in the polls, still cannot become U.S. president. This may be an unfortunate harbinger of this year's election, as Joe Biden is currently ahead of Donald Trump in most surveys so far this year. Mr. Biden has typically received an average of about 50% support over the past few months, and regularly leads Trump by around 10%. Mr. Trump and his opponent, Hillary Clinton, are only a few percentage points apart as the day approaches Election Day. Which states will decide? As was the case with Clinton in 2016, the total number of popular votes a candidate receives is not as important as the states in which the candidate wins. Most states' vote in the U.S. is the same, meaning that the two candidates have an equal chance of winning in these states. But in the battlefield states, the situation was very different. In the Electoral College system used by the United States to elect the president, each state is granted a certain number of votes based on the number of members of Congress. Including the Senate and the House of Representatives, they have a total of 538 electoral votes. A candidate needs to get 270 votes to win. The battle states typically have more electoral votes than other states, so candidates also spend more time campaigning in these locations. Currently, the survey in the battlefield states is in favor of Mr. Biden. In particular, in Michigan, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, three states that helped Trump win close by with a difference of less than 1% in 2016. Mr. Biden is also leading in the battlefields where Mr. Trump won in 2016 separately compared to his opponent. The situation was not so good. In Iowa, Ohio and Texas, Mr. Trump is behind rival Joe Biden by 8 to 10%. But the betting markets have yet to remove President Trump. Trump's November 3 win rate for the day is now less than 50%. Many still expect the situation to change over the next few weeks. However, political experts do not trust Mr. Trump's re-election ability. Political analysis site 538 said Mr. Biden was likely to win the election, while The Economist wrote that Mr. Biden, very likely, would beat Mr. Trump. Will the COVID-19 pandemic adversely affect Mr. Trump's numbers? The COVID-19 pandemic took over the U.S. news earlier this year and the Trump administration's response was controversial. In mid-March, when Mr. Trump declared a pandemic emergency and budgeted $50 billion to the states to stop the virus from spreading, his support was record high. 55% of Americans agreed with Mr. Trump's actions at that time. Gradually, however, Trump lost support for the Democrats, although Republicans continued to side with the president. In July, data showed that Trump supporters had begun to question the U.S. government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, but in August and September, Trump's support slightly increased. The COVID-19 pandemic was a priority issue among American voters, especially when the University of Washington predicted that by January 3, the number of COVID-19 deaths in the U.S. could reach around 230,000. President Trump can hope campaign speed, the initiative to support vaccine production of the U.S. government, can create a surprise in October, turn the situation in the U.S. election year. Now on. The main scientific advisor of the initiative has said, extremely difficult but not impossible to have a COVID-19 vaccine distributed before November 3. Thank you for watching the news on 60's YouTube channel. Leave your comment below the video. Thank you and see you next news.